be a slave. O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And it's down along the falls road that's where I long to be. Lying in the dark with the Provo Company. A comrade on the left eye, another one on the right. A trip from ammunition for the little Armalite. I was stopped by a soldier, he said you are a swine. He hit me with his rifle and he kicked me in the groin. I begged and I pleaded, oh, my manners were polite. But all the time I'm thinking of me little Armalite. And it's down in the ball side, it's where I long to be. Lying in the dark with the Provo Company. A comrade on the left and another one on the right. And a clip of ammunition for me little Armalite. Well, this brave RUC man came marching up our street. 600 British soldiers he had lined up at his feet. Got out your Cardiff-Pinions, come on out and fight. He cried, I'm only joking when he heard the Armalite. And it's down in Malachi, it's where I long to be. Lying in the dark with the Provo Company. A comrade on the left and another one on the right. A clip of ammunition for the little Armalite. Well, the army came to visit me, was in the early hours, with Saracens and Saladins and ferret armored jars. The Scots had me cornered, but I gave them all a fright. With the armor-piercing bullets of me little Armalite. And it's down in the New Lodge, it's where I long to be. Lying in the dark with the Provo Company. A comrade on the left and another one on the right. A clip of ammunition for me little Armalite. Well, when Pryor came to Belfast to see the battles won, the generals they had told him, we've got them on the run. But corporals and privates, while on patrol at night, they remember narrow water and the bloody Armalite. And it's down across the glen, it's where I long to be. Lying in the dark with the Provo Company. A comrade on the left and another one on the right. And a clip of ammunition for me little Armalite.
Well, I know I miss more than hits.
with a face that was launched to sink. And I seldom feel the bright relief. It's been the worst day since yesterday. If there's one thing I have said, is that the dreams I once had now lay in bed. As the four winds blow my wits through the door, it's been the worst day since yesterday. Falling down to you, sweet ground, where the flowers they bloom. Well, if there I'll be found, hurry back to me, my wild calling. It's been the worst day since yesterday. These wounds have seen no more. Except for the scars I have ignored. And this endless crutch, well, it's never enough. It's been the worst day since yesterday. Hello says hello. Well, it's time I should go to pastures green that I've yet to see. Hurry back to me, my wild calling. It's been the worst day since yesterday. It's been the worst day since yesterday. It's been the worst day since yesterday. Wind shining on the piercing wind. Horses run with a polished shield. Fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight man, blood red throne. Fight to keep this land your own. Stop on the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? Blood run cold, fight until you die on the rock. A force my God is hard to stop. Close your mind to stress and pain. Fight till you're no longer sane. Let not the one damn curve pass by. How many of them can we make die? Guard your women and children well. Send these bastards back to hell. come, move your feet to a marching drum. We'll win the war and pay the toll. I'll fight as a one in heart and soul. Midnight man, blood red road. To keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? Shiny armor, they're in houses, run with a powder shield. Fight them back to the hill. Like that, blood red road. Fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die? We own the sky, you and I. One thing I know so you gotta fly for your life. You got the dangerous eyes, you got the dangerous. Oh, what I've never seen before. Silhouette and see the sun. Are you ready to run? Are you ready? Don't know what you're fighting for. You better fly for your life. Just another side. Give you everything to me. You're the ghost in my
Bayonet
heart.
says hi Licorice.
You got the dangerous eyes. You got the dangerous.
Bayonet sent a sticker.
We own the sky, you and I.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kortke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, Southwest, East, Northeast, and Central. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4MG.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends in Lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and CONUS, the outlying territories, the outlying aligned holdings, which, by the way, don't forget the states too, but the aligned holdings, something I'm going to touch on here. There's yet other pieces of real estate, not really the territorial category, but other. More on that, and like I said, more on that in a minute. Anyway, today's date, it is Communications Tuesday. It is the 18th of February. It is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with a K, 2020 Old Earth Calendar, 2020 Year of Battle, Year of Crossed Sabers. And apparently the bad guys are going to be coming out of their chalks in Virginia. And this, of course, has now been passed on through a couple of other sources. There are people who are in uniform who don't like what they're seeing and hearing. Well, good. Because of that, as has been pointed out, the bad guys just got, crossed twice. First, 20 Jan 20, the bat faggots, FBI, Homeland Security, police state, Richmond, police state, Capitol building, and police state / the, Staatspolizei, the state police in Virginia. We're all pissed because 20 Jan 20 went really well in that, not that, when everybody left, the place looked better than when the pigs normally have it under their control and when they let the leftists in. Anyway, of course, now we just had a short back pedal, not much, but the big first piece, which is the distraction in and of itself, if you think of it this way, has been temporarily halted. It's going to be scuttled down the road. But in the meantime, all the rest of the anti-gun stuff, of course, has passed through. There's only, I think, one other piece that hasn't in Virginia. Well, that's another big hit for the cop shops and for the ring knockers, especially the ATF, FBI, Homeland Security, and the Virginia State Police. They wanted this. They not only wanted it, they still have enough that they can proceed. So there's nothing that's changed. In fact, there is a notification that they are looking for, recruits for gun confiscation at this time. It's going through the cop scroll. If you got anybody that's a cop and supposedly they're on your side, well, ask them if you can kind of look at all the cool stuff that's on that laptop that's in the middle of the machine there, the middle of the cop car. If they're really on your side, you'd be able to look at all the fun stuff that scrolls through there. Well, for some of the people in Virginia, they really are your friends, and they really have shown everybody what's going on, which is why some of the militia units have doubled their effort. The bat faggots, BATF, FBI, Homeland Security, state police, and foreign / regional, don't say foreign as in outside the United States yet, although who knows? We can't really be sure. I mean, after all, they put them in a stinking uniform they need to. They've done that in New York. But other state police, which have already been recruited as of the beginning of last year, about this time, as a matter of fact, 1 year ago, have been notified that they're going to kind of get even. They're going to go after the mouths, the big people, the people who resisted and are resisting the, big lodge and the little small hat yarmulke wearers association because they're in the way. So they're going to try to go out and do this, basically a variation on what we saw after the Bundy standoff and other activities in the past. It's happened over and over and over again. Everybody's ready for it. So if you thought you were finished with everything because, look, they only slowed down one. They didn't stop it, really. They just slowed it down. They already said they're taking it back to committee, and the old wicked witch of the West is already looking at how they can turn it this way and turn it that way and plug it in and get as much as they can of whatever they demanded, okay? So that's going to happen. Anyway, everybody should be on notice. It could kick off any time simply because now you got 2 strikes against the Patriot movement because we've been successful twice. They are frothing at the mouth. The management, especially the Bloomberg paid-for management, is in hyper scream mode right now. And that in and of itself should be a warning for you, because the yes men, the kowtows, the characters who want to get higher up in the lodge, the ones who want to lick the fanny of the synagogue crew, they're all in yes man mode. They're all in they want to hurt somebody mode. They want to come out. They want to, whatever the plan is, they're going to have a plan and execute it, and they're going to get out there and they're going to show you who's boss. So for Virginia, you guys are right there on tender hooks now. Everybody needs to be paying attention. It's not the only place where there is stuff that's going on. Needless to say, we had a little story we were covering yesterday. Combat veteran ordered by Wisconsin judge to turn over VA medical records, guns, and ammo inventory information, which is like no, and you can stuff it up your arse sideways, and no. But as it is, what's going to be interesting here is to see, again, where that particular case is like many that are around the country, where we're seeing them come at you from criminal, or they're doing litigation, or, take your pick, go right down the shopping list. Well, it's not going to sit well with anybody. And as we know, at some point it's going to kick off somewhere. In Wisconsin, I highly recommend that everybody be ready to back each other up there, although you're a communist-occupied state. Wisconsin, the Wisconsin SSD, Soviet Socialist Democracy, is partially occupied out of Chicago. The Jewish mob has the north side, and their blobs roll all the way out into Wisconsin and up to faggoty boy Milwaukee. So with that being the case, you've got an interesting conflict like most of the states. The backwater / cesspool large cities are nothing but just money sinks, graft and corruption, cores, and they're sucking the rest of the states blind, because the Jewish mob that runs each one of those cities, who typically don't live in them, as is the case with Chicago, are going to continue to attack and try to do more damage everywhere else they can. At some point, there's going to be kickback. When that starts, everybody might as well join in, because you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Just that simple. So, again, that particular story, somebody's asking, forgive me, I should make sure I do that right, so let's do this. If you would like to watch that video again, we're not going to, well, we might play it later, not this hour, because obviously we started up late. Sorry about that, guys. Traffic jams and also accidents on the road. Kind of got around them, but still they were in the way, so that happens. Anyway, combat veteran ordered by Wisconsin judge to turn over VA medical records, guns, ammo inventory. This is dated for February 11th, 2020. Presently got 50,544 views. It needs to be doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. People need to step up and help. The channel is Ozark Yeoman. That's 2 words, O-Z-A-R-K, Ozark space Yeoman, Y-E-O-M-A-N. That's Ozark Yeoman, and that is on YouTube. And the video is combat veteran ordered by Wisconsin judge to turn over VA medical records, guns, ammo inventory. We'll see how that works. Next, online with the stuff that's going on. Oh, as a matter of fact, yeah, he is. The guy that's being attacked is a vet. I believe his wife is too, actually. The gentleman you see there is actually an individual stepping up to help out. If you watch in the video, the person who's doing the work, he's gotten involved to kind of spread the word, so understand the actual, and it's explained the actual party that's involved. There's politics going on, etc. So, again, be careful, pay attention to what they say, and act accordingly. But we do need to know who's who in the zoo, who all these critters are, as opposed to, the rest of the story, as they say, the other gobbledygook that's going on. Yeah, I've got a couple others here. Hold on real quick. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're going to go back to Richmond here real quick. The other piece of legislation, of course, one of the things that was discussed by some of the Western Alliance personnel that are right now dealing with, like Tazewell County, there's a bunch of people in Tazewell. They've already shown everybody what's on the scroll on the computers. there's a couple of different people who have done a good job of saying, hey, you know what, we're supposed to be on your side. Everybody claims we are. The other side's working against us. Here, take a look at what they're posting in the propaganda scroll for the cop shops. This is a good test for all you guys, for these cops that claim that they're with us, okay? Because really, when you're in the car, I've got that computer right there. Why don't you turn that around? Let's go through everything that's in there. Let's see what's in there. Why don't we see what's going on? Let us all know. Give us a big heads up in advance for whatever propaganda or whatever agenda they have rolling, right? So nobody's going to go caught flat-footed. In fact, the sheriffs are the same way. If those sheriffs are supposedly with the people, there's nothing the other side is going to do, if they really are with the people, that anybody's going to get caught flat-footed on. In fact, at the very least, remember, dispatch is monitoring all radio traffic in the greater county area for the sheriff's department. And that means if there's any other radio traffic in the area, they're going to ID it. It's going to pop up on their scanners, and it's going to be flagged. So there shouldn't be any possible way, if all those supposed cop shops and all those supposed sheriffs are with us, supposedly. Okay, we'll see what happens. Some are actually, and they're actually putting the money where their mouth is, and they're demonstrating by having people come over and have little rap sessions watching what the bad guys are posting, especially the Virginia State Police, ATF, and Homeland Security. And Homeland Security is just basically working for the ADL and for Southern Perversion Laos, you know, those homosexual pedophiles. And they are. They're proudly homosexual pedophiles. You don't know what Southern Perversion Law made themselves famous on? Defending Mambla and defending pedophiles. That was their first mission in life, period. Everything else is secondary. So just a little heads up there about the Queer as a $3 Bill Southern Perversion Laos Center. And how they're joined with the ATF and the FBI. Of course, the pedophilic queers would be there with both that bunch. So anyway, yeah, matter of fact, good point. Next, we are little past the bottom of the hour. It is 5:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pretty bright outside. Actually, our solar has been working really well. We had kind of a snowy day yesterday. One thing I still noticed is we still got full charge on all of the solar units out there. I don't care what it was, big, small, or indifferent. That's rather fascinating. Of course, the sun is beaming, and whatever they're not telling us about, well, I guess we'll find out soon enough. We're kind of like in a belt here where we got snow yesterday, got a little slick last night. As soon as the sun came up, the temperature came up with it, everything had cleared, and we lost more than half of everything that came down. In fact, any place where there's anything that was exposed before that was on the ground, where there's dark patches of grass, it's got no snow on it right now. The places where we are in a little bit of a shadow constantly, that's where the snow is, and that's about it. So we got a good mix, too. For camouflage at this point in time, you'd have to have a mix. You couldn't just use white, and you can't just use the brown range. You need a smattering of white here and there. There's a bunch of tricks that you can use to get that done for the normal visual spectrum of radiation, you know, the optical collection type with your eyes. With thermal, there's a bunch of other tricks. Actually, we're giving a class. I might as well mention that while we're on the subject. We have 2 dog and pony show classes that are going to be running around the state of Michigan here over the next 3 weeks. One of them is going to be a complete deception/thermal defense program, explaining everybody what they need to do and things they can do to eradicate most of their thermal signature, which is the one thing the bad guys are counting on and figure we don't know much about, when in reverse is the order. We are the people who helped to develop the garbage. And amazingly enough, a lot of the thermal research was done right here in our backyard where I'm sitting. And because of that, we have a lot of people who have been helping for quite some time to develop, you know, technology or to demonstrate how deception works. Well, we're going to put that into a class. It's already in a class. And we will be offering it around the state. We've got about 4 locations. It looks like we're going to be ready to roll, and we're going to be bringing in the entire package. We'll do it all in one sweep because we'll do both the thermal, which will take up the lion's share of the time, and radio communications. Now, with radio communications, we're going to cover shortwave. We're going to cover all up and down the shortwave option. And then VHF and UHF, which really isn't given that much time now the way it should be. And there's a reason, which I'm going to demonstrate when we're doing the course. But any of the FM and AM systems that are out there, of course, microwave, AM, and FM, we're going to demonstrate that too. And then we're going to have a cornucopia, and I have a cornucopia of handheld radios of so many different types, pretty much all of them working. There's a handful that still aren't yet because I really haven't gone over them. I can say they probably do. I mean, I did put batteries in them. They powered up, did whatever. But we're going to have to experiment, clean everything up, go through it, make sure that there's nothing that's an issue. Like I've said a million times, one of the things I'm looking at are antennas, and more antennas. And right now I don't have sufficient number by comparison to what I believe I need. What I know I'm going to need, especially for the radios I'll be using in the field. So I'm looking for deals. And again, one of the places to go is over at Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and watch to see what kind of piles of old stuff show up, okay? And I think it's especially critical that we understand that with communications, the wear points, you need to be thinking about in advance. One of the things that you can save a little bit of wear and tear on your primary machine is obviously a headset with an inline control, either a push-to-talk or whatever button. Why? Well, all the equipment that's on your machine is going to wear out if you continue to use it. And although I don't use headsets with the push-to-talk that often, by comparison, I understand that if I were using the regular radio, most of the stuff, which is not heavy industrial, unless it's like the old Motorola police radios and things like that, and we got a ton of those, and the GEs, we got a ton of those. Those were built with a much sturdier, girthier, and high-end industrial-based piece of hardware across the board, step by step by step. It was built to old American standards, even when it was made in Japan rather than the United States. Okay, so the newer stuff it just doesn't have as many flexes in it. This is something we've talked about, how you measure quality and performance of a lot of equipment. You actually do flex tests. Well, they do, and they know what the lifespan of most of the junk is that they produce, as in the manufacturers. And most of the new stuff, it's just not going to hold up. It's just that simple. It's the way it is. The tinier you get, the more likelihood you're going to have a breakage in some way. So to save you some trouble, as I have said several times here, it's Communications Tuesday, take advantage of these headsets, hardwired, not wireless, hardwire. When you do wireless from one point to the next, you've created another transmission. You have to have another transceiver and another little transceiver that go back and forth and yap at each other, and it's just creating more heartburn and hardship than you need when a simple wire umbilicus will do just fine, okay? So one of the advantages, too, of that is less likely to be intercepted/interrupted. Certainly your primary transmission can be intercepted, but you don't have a double tap with more buzz showing up on the frequency scanner on their side. I mean, think about it. Your subsystem, where you have to do the jump, is creating yet another signal, which kind of confirms that, yeah, there's a hard point there I really want to study or send a bullet on, or maybe drop a mortar round on, or maybe tell somebody to drop some ordnance on. So we want to make sure we minimize everything. Remember, you're not going maximize. Remember, with military communications or security communications, minimize. Smallest footprint possible. I don't need to talk to Bolivia. I'm only trying to talk to Bob across on the other side of this 40-acre field, and I don't want him to get out and have to be seen. I want Bob to be able to stay right where he is. I want to stay undercover right where I am. And whatever we're going to do is minimal time in communication to get the maximum message across. Again, phonetics work well with this. Codes, number codes work really well. That way you can broadcast even in the open, and it's impossible for anybody to determine what you're talking about, okay? But you'll get the message through. You just need to understand each other's language, and you come up with a standard for that, okay? Another thing, as I said about perishables, the handset / mic headset is great. Also remember, no matter how hard you try, those little nubby antennas are going to die on you. They were built to do that. They were built to take beastie abuse, and it is going to continue to be an issue. It's going to be something that if you think through what it is that we're looking at here right now, you're going to be running. I don't care if you're doing urban warfare, you think you're going to be urban secret squirrel, or if you're going to be the wombat in the field way out in the middle of the woods. Doesn't make any difference which direction you go. Your radio equipment and all your equipment is going to get rubbed on, bumped, dropped, stepped on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's why on the radio, needless to say, we don't want to step on the radio itself, but no matter what, that little rubby antenna, it always rubs against something. It keeps, it bumps into this. It snags into that. Eventually, you're going to get some crack down around the base. It's usually not the tip of the rubber that breaks. It's down around the base. You've seen this before. And, of course, it compromises and allows moisture to get in, and it doesn't have the protective quality. First thing you do is break out your electrical tape or whatever kind of special goop you got, and you fix it. And inevitably, you know what happens? It breaks wherever the goop stops, or it breaks more extensively because it's still flexed with the tape, and it breaks, or, it separates the rest away. It's not a breakage. It's just gradual wear, pull and part, because it's an organic. It is a flexible, trying to imitate skin, organic. And wherever there's a flaw, or where there's a combination of, sadly enough, a flaw and the flex or bend point, which usually is kind of a combination. That's why you see some weird. Somebody asked me, why does this fracture the way it does? Because that's a flaw in the casting with the material, whatever they've made it. It's not a critical issue, but it eventually will show up. It's kind of like think of it like a barbed wire snag on a leather hide. Okay, it looks great. That looks great on leather. I like grade 2 leather, not grade 1, because grade 2 has character. That grade 2 will have barbed wire snags, even have brand marks or burns. Will have tattoos. Cattle get tattoos. Most people don't realize that. They get tattooed with numbers and, ID marks and things like that. That happens too. That's grade 2 leather. Grade 1 looks just like it's flawless, almost like it's plastic. It's made out of, it's so clean. It's beautiful. The quality of the hide is excellent, but I like character. Problem with character and plastics is that's your weak point on the plastic. If you have or there was like a last squeeze out of a reservoir, and you've seen this if you've been in plastics, you know what I'm talking about. You get this little knot area. It's like a dollop area where there's like a push, and real quick they might have realized, oh God, the hopper is short, so they throw some more junk in there and they squeeze it in the rest of the way. But it's very noticeable when everything cools. Okay, it happens all the time, simply even with automated systems. So this is part of what happens with a lot of your malleable organic covers like this, or sheaths. The material itself is, first of all, designed to imitate skin. But it only imitates skin for so long, and then it starts to break down. Oh, believe me, your skin does the same thing. Now, somebody's asking, is there any way you can treat it? Not really. You could add more junk to the outer surface, kind of like make a second layer, but it's still going to do exactly what it's been doing, and then the other stuff will do it too. So your best bet is to make it work as long as you can, and then unscrew the antenna. Don't throw it away. That may be the only antenna you have left. You don't know. The next one you might bust right off. You break everything. You're going to need something. Maybe you'll after it breaks, you'll take the other sleeve off of the one and slide it back over the nasty other one and goop that into place, and that'll run for a while. It'll still, it won't look pretty. The big thing is, you can live without the rubber baby buggy bumper, but it's awful handy for preventing the antenna from grounding out on stuff, because it does make contact all the time. Now, somebody always asks, well, do you do the short nubs or do you do the long whippy antennas? I do both, depending upon what I need. Now, the short nub antenna kind of falls in line with the minimal distance transmitter. I don't need very much antenna because I'm not going to be talking very loud. I am not going to be talking very long, and I am going to be talking in code, and I only want to talk to Bob. And Bob's only a short distance away. I don't need somebody on the other side of Livingston County to hear what I'm saying in Washtenaw County, okay? That's not really useful unless I was trying to talk to Livingston County. For most of what you're doing with tactical radios, it's supposed to be tactical team and platoon communications. Now, you look at the distances that people will be separated by under those conditions, and you ask yourself, what transmission range, what power output do I need for that kind of work? How far do I need to reach? Okay. Now, remember, let me give you an example. See, this is part of the math formula. In traveling, let's say that you're traveling, and you follow the basic rule of the snake. Well, if you're on a road march, left, right, alternate, either side of the road, you're moving at a good pace, but you're 10 yards apart between each person. Not just 10 yards as in across the road from each other on an angle. If a point man moves out on the left, the other guy should be on the right. He should be 10 yards, in distance at least, if not a little farther behind the point man. Every other tier after that should be about 10 yards. Okay, if you have 10 men, that's 100 yards. Isn't that a football field? Now you have another 10 men, which is half a platoon. Isn't that another football field? Oh, and by the way, don't forget, I'm keeping the squads separated a little bit, so there's probably about 15 to 20 yards between the tail man on first squad and the front man on the second squad, et cetera, et cetera. This is part of what we have a hard time explaining to people about when they talk about, well, you had the troops in the field and you had all these people here. Well, if you're moving tactically to ensure optimal safety in motion, okay, from ambush, air attack, artillery, mortar fire, whatever. The idea is that you're going to maintain those distances, and you're also going to be moving slower because you may be observing and somebody may identify a threat before you walk into an ambush. And because of that, you're going to stop, you're going to start, you may stop again, and everybody has to pay attention. And it works, like I said, like a snake, a big giant snake. But, the way a snake does when it moves, it's like an accordion, okay? So this is another part about getting force, effective fighting force to where you need it, when you need it. It takes time to get the rest of the snake rolled up or moved up to where they can be effectively working together if you're going to try and put a lot of firepower into one place at one time or into an objective at one point at one time. So the same is true for this reason, understanding what you need, how your radio needs to work, what it needs to reach distance-wise. Within the squad, you got to be able to talk to each other. Within the platoon, for platoon commanders, and I will point out again, you should have two separate radios, not one radio that does both jobs. If you're short or thin on radio equipment, you'll have to switch frequencies. But ideally, you need a squad frequency radio, and then you need a platoon frequency radio for the platoon leaders, a separate command frequency. So start thinking that way. If you've got straw boss team leaders, straw boss platoon leaders, then you need to make sure that they have the right set of equipment and they practice what they preach. Here's a little hint. Make sure you have color codes on your radios so that you can confirm which radio you should be talking to. Trying to talk to the command frequency, but picking up the the squad frequency instead of platoon is not going to do you any good. Another thing, remember about changing frequencies. You have a primary, you have a secondary, then you have a third, and then you have a fourth. Don't just have a secondary frequency chosen and that's it. Why? Well, the Pat Faggots had that. A couple others, in fact, it's rather interesting that they actually screwed up, and in the process of trying to use their radios, there were a number of individuals who did exactly what I've described on the air over and over again, started to fiddle fart, go to their secondary transmission, secondary frequencies, and then their third frequencies, and by the time they were done, a lot of them weren't talking to anybody. In many cases, when they tried to change frequencies, they actually completely lost the entire battery. They even have any clue where the hell their radio was tuned. They were either panicked, adrenaline rush, or they were wounded and fiddling with their radio because nobody would talk back and yap at them. You've got the one, help me, Frank, under the water tower, guys. Help me, Frank, I'm hurt. Get off the radio, man. Oh, man, help me, Frank. Guys, all those radio traffic pieces were intercepts. There are tapes from the local department listening to what was going on. Oh, you do remember I've covered this on the air for years. Yeah, not the 911. We're talking about radio dispatch. Yeah. So again, guys, this is one of the other problems. A wounded person, for instance, one wounded individual, that's why they changed frequencies. They had wounded, and the wounded were screaming and thrashing around and making noise on frequency 1. So they said, go to their alternate frequency, which they tried to. Well, then when they did their second wave attack, they had a whole bunch of other casualties. Those casualties are now making noise and tying up the frequencies, some of them in delirium in both cases. So they had to finally switch to a third, or what they thought was a third frequency. Most of them didn't make it there. Most of them didn't tune in their radios properly. So they ended up with a mishmash of signal communications, total confusion. And they still tried a third assault. They ordered a third attack, and then they wanted to talk because they were out of ammo. They couldn't talk to each other. They were out of ammunition. And if it were us instead of the Branch Davidians, every last stinking one of them would have been dead. See how that works? Just a little heads up. Help me, Frank. Now remember, guys, electronic countermeasures, you get hold of their radios. You want to get somebody on the radio and have them just go ape crazy. I mean, like, remember, act like, listen to the radio traffic. Mom, help me, Mom. Oh, my guts are all over the place, Mom. You gotta help me, Mom. Help me, Mom. Oh, God, it hurts. See how that works? Guys, all this technology works both ways. You grab one of their dead, a couple of their dead, they've got their radios on, and guess what? Pay attention, listen in, and then start throwing in gobbledygook. I've done it many times, as a matter of fact, quite successfully. In fact, if you know the enemy's frequencies, or eventually you survey, like with, state police, then what you do is start to throw other transmissions in. Over. It's up. Over. 6 men over. Over. See how that works? So again, be creative. Think ahead, but most important is, again, you want to limit. You don't want to. You can always have the ability to open up your system, but you want to work in a lower power mode for most of what you're doing. And even there, just sounds and noises can make up for whole sentences if you know how to make the codes work. So be creative there too. Last but not least, let's see. You know what? Somebody else has asked about that. Yeah, well, we've got another county in Michigan that may have gone over to Second Amendment resolution status today. I'll find out more maybe by the 8 o'clock hour. For those of you who don't know, Oceana, as we mentioned yesterday, has become a Second Amendment resolution county as a county, which is really cool. Everybody has done their part there. Congratulations, double plus good, thumbs up. And continue to do what you're continuing to do. And I think we'll be in pretty good shape by the time we're done with everything. It's looking pretty good. So if there's anybody who has any questions about the Second Amendment sanctuary / Second Amendment resolve / resolution effort in Michigan, there's a number of pages on on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can track them down. On Facebook, you're going to have to go through, check to see. Do a search. It's not hard. I think I've joined 4 or 5 of them already. Just, again, in Facebook, it's just to be able to keep an eye on them and track as they go. I want to say thank you to the guys that have responded, and especially Hal, as a matter of fact, is one of them. I'm sure Hal, looking at the name, Hal's name is made up on Facebook, which is okay. They've still provided all the information we need. So, Hal, thank you, double plus good, and I think you're listening tonight, too. Also, we had a number of other people who have stepped up to the plate over on the northeastern side of the state. Montmorency County, of course, is done. I was surprised there, but again, it's probably most likely the state that part of the state's pretty active in a lot of other ways. And in fact, what's funny is Montmorency County, Michigan, is where chipboard was invented. Everybody goes, what? Yeah, Montmorency County, Michigan, up towards above Lewiston, and to the east of Atlanta, Michigan, which is in Montmorency County. Atlanta, I believe, is the county seat. Is where chipboard was created. The guy that owned a big lumber mill up there, he had all this pile of sawdust and chip, and he's like, there's got to be something we could do with this. And so he started doing research into compression wood, And the rest is history. And the reason he did it, he's wanted to make jobs for the people up north in Michigan, and he did. But what's fascinating is it was cutting edge all over the planet. It became cutting edge. It's all over the planet now. But that all came from right here in Michigan. The lion's share of the initial research, all the prototyping was done here. And right there in Montmorency County, which is now a Second Amendment sanctuary/resolution county in Michigan. They've been doing some good work there. Also, oh, wait a minute. I'll tell you what, not also. We're at the top of the hour, so we're going to be at the top of the hour break. For everybody out there, it is still sunrise. I mean, the sun's out there barely. We're heading towards sunset right now, but it's been clear. We got good illumination for all of our solar. I think it will be cooking tonight. I put up some new infrared solar LED units for benchmark, night sniper target use. I'm going to test these tonight with some of the night vision because it's a new idea, something that somebody else came up with. But the idea, we're doing it already, but they're doing it a little different, so it's shielded so that you can use it for marking on your end. And I want to experiment with it tonight so you can see it, but pretty much nobody else can. Which is neat because you can absolutely guesstimate within a few yards the exact location at 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 yards with a bench marker like this. Like an aiming stick, right? Anyway, God bless our republic. Yes, the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run. We're in the march. We're going to get out of the way for a few minutes. Second hour is coming up. We were a little late starting. Sorry about that. But we will be regular time next hour. God bless. Bye-bye.
And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Save it from the storm, boys, water down its roots the sea. And the sun will always shine on the old liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along with the fight, we're born free, we're born forever free. Thanks will pay the fight for boys, beneath the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking for, always pay the tyrant's fee. Never give up the struggle, boys, fight for the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys, stand against all tyranny. Hang the flag for freedom, boys, high on the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Let the power we grow, boys, that will be a stronger tree. We will sing our faith, boys, hang on the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children will be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside to dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
Learn from the mistakes of others. You won't live long enough to make them all yourself. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon Intelligence Report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters on and behind the lines in occupied territories, Southwest, East, Northeast, and Central. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and CONUS, the outlying two states, the outlying two territories, and the clock. It is 6:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Communications Tuesday. It is the 18th of February. It is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist. and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with a K. 2020, Old Earth calendar, 2020, year of conflict, year of battle. You know, here's how to look at what's going on here with Virginia. The only reason they backed down a little on grabbing guns in Virginia is because they heard the echo of their voice in the barrel of our guns. Guns, 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 guns. You do understand that, right? Reasonable didn't do a damn bit of good. Talking at them, nope. But when they heard the sound of their voice, when they were yapping like the chihuahuas that they are, and everybody had that barrel pointed at them. Well, it was different across the board. So for everybody out there, it's not finished. It's not even a major reprieve. They just figured they had to duck to the right on that. All the other dirty stuff they passed is enough to get everything going anyway. And of course, everybody's going to go, well, look, see, this is actually a compromise thing where you're all supposed to go, oh, look, well, they didn't get that. Yeah, well, they got all the other garbage they shouldn't have gotten at all, right? Well, yeah. So they got a whole bunch of stuff passed in preparation for getting the rest of the gun grab going anytime they choose. Oh, yeah. So we didn't really win anything since the whole idea was to not let anything pass at all. And they ignored. And finally, as people kept building up, I think it helps, really does help. It has nothing to do with being contrite and quiet and reasonable when you're in the room with them. It's the people that stood up and said, well, you know, you just made me a criminal. I think I'm going to treat you as a criminal. And all of a sudden, that wasn't what they expected to hear, you see. And but we were told that you people would all just roll over and lick your own hind ends, all of us Americans. That's what the leftists have all convinced themselves. Not going to be willing to fight for your freedom or your liberty. Well, here's the first rule. People will be more than willing to kill for their freedom and their liberty to start with, and the characters that keep doing this are probably the ones that are going to die. So we know it's not going to be pretty for them, and they know it too, which is why all of a sudden they just kind of went into freeze/kibosh mode. So we'll see how this continues. The big thing is to watch out for the reasonable characters. Remember, the traitors that are out there waiting to betray you, they are the gun people. They are not the majority of the gun people. They're the panty waists who figure that they can be reasonable so that your enemy will like them. Not really. The enemy laughs when they see a fool like this coming, but they're not stupid. They'll take advantage of every one of the idiot sticks that, useful idiots that's stupid enough to open negotiations. Because what negotiations always mean is that somebody else is planned for sacrifice. Somebody else is going to be thrown to the wolves. Their logic is it won't be them, even though they're always part of the meal. The idiot sticks who think they have a deal. Okay, so we got a lot of work to do. Not a whole lot of time to get everything done, but we'll do as much as we can. I will remind everybody again, we do have a radio communications class that will be in motion. We're going to do basically around the state tour, I think. If we do this once, we're just going to have to do this several times. So we've already had a couple of different requests come in. We will probably be doing something along the south, I think Monroe. We will then be over in the Monroe County. Then we'll be working our way across the base of the state to a degree. But then we're going to jump way up north. Then we're going to be coming back down to the middle of the state. But that's okay because it'll be different days. And the purpose behind this is to create familiarization and to understand how quickly you can put a grid up and how to set a grid up. Actually, if anybody just gets a radio in your car, everybody go out and get a CB now. Go get a CB now. Go find a CB radio now. Go pick it up, put it in your vehicle. Congratulations, handshakes, thumbs up, you're done. That's all you got to do. Get that. There's part of a radio grid right there. Everybody does it. We've had this in the past. It's something that will change the battlefield dynamic immediately, and everyone can do it. Same is true with any of the other radio technology out there. Whatever you commit to, you got to have more than one radio. You got to talk to somebody else that's friendly, right? But that's not really hard to figure out. The big thing is just to get out there and get it done, okay? So let's see, your local truck stops, everybody goes immediately like, we're going to get radios. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something real quick. No, I correct myself. Here's an example, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, man, I should buy this. I should just go get this if it's still there. In fact, I'm going to send a message. But right now, South Below, Illinois, if you're in Illinois, guys, it's a pile of radios, not that big, but it's a bunch of radios. You've got at least one older base station, 23 channel. You've got another base that looks like it's, I would say from the early 80s. You've got a Uniden. I love Uniden radios. Actually, I love Uniden because they actually have always been freestanding design, a freestanding model. A lot of the other companies co-share boards, but even Uniden's 500 series, duck boxes or small radios, those have always been an independent design. Now, they've sold to a couple other companies, but not so much in recent years because there's not as much competition. But whenever a company would be shopping around for a little radio, they usually just buy somebody else's circuit board and then doctor up the outer box to make it look a little different, but it's the same radio internally. Cobras are like that. Midlands are like that. If you can go right down the brands, there's several of them that are just all the same radio. The nice thing is if you need spare parts, they're all the same radio, okay? But Unidens have a tendency to be a little tougher and a little hotter out of the box without any tweaking and are really compact and tight. They're really, really a little better standard, at least there traditionally was. Now, I've noticed they've changed their new boxes are darker and a little smaller. They don't quite match up with the dial face of some of the other stuff I've seen, so I don't know whether Uniden has maybe bought into another lesser pattern or if they've just changed things up a little bit. I'll find out because we're going to get a couple of the newer radios here out of the box. I got a couple of them here. They're going to get hooked up to something, and might as well put them where where they're most useful. So they're going to probably go into CP or one of the command post vehicles, and it'll be one of the forward vehicle operators' radios, not one of the pieces of equipment in the radio rack in the back. Okay. But we'll experiment with them a little bit. But anyway, over at Facebook Marketplace, $25 for a pile of radios. You can get a nice heavy-duty steel box speaker. You got a Uniden radio. You got a tabletop base station, 2 of them. You got a clock radio. It's just a mix of junk, okay? But it's not junk. And definitely would be worth picking up if you're over in the Facebook Marketplace and you're over in South Beloit. That's Beloi or Beloit. Okay, take your pick. It's either South Beloit or it's South Beloit or whatever. However you pronounce it, you tell me. And Beloit, Illinois, and it's Vintage CB Radios lot. Vintage CB Radios lot. So if you're over in that direction, I'd pick this up. The base station's worth it if nothing else. $25, you're not going to go wrong with any of it. You got a mic, you've got a external speaker, you've got a few other items, and there could be more. Oh, wait a minute. No, there is another picture. Hold on. Uncle Mark here is lying to you. No, they're close-ups. That's good. So that's cool. Looks like a Regency scanner. That one is a scanner. It's not a base radio. It's a scanner. There we go. Better close up. I can see what I'm looking at. One is a scanner. The other one's a CB base. There's a little clock radio, and there's a CB mobile. So got a good combination of equipment there. And check it out. See if it's worthwhile or something makes sense for you. And take it on home. Well, as a matter of fact, somebody's asked me another question. We got some other stuff that is going on, and we are still doing photo reconnaissance and actually keeping an eye. We're doing a manpower search right now, and there's got to be a place where they're housing and stacking and racking them. We have 2 locations that we're pretty sure on. That'll give us all the vehicle numbers, plate numbers for the operators, and if foreign plates and or other government plates that are tied in wherever they're putting the quartering together with regard to the hotel work. So just a heads up, that's the way to do it. Now that you know what vehicles to follow to their happy camping ground, then we're going to be able to get the rest of the story going on that. So for our friends in Midland and the area around Midland, keep up, do what you're doing, just keep it up. Next, on that note, for most of your tactical communications, it's going to be close in. However, for getting out and away from the area, the very same radios in many cases that can be used for close tactical or mid-tactical are also effective for long-range or at least middle to long-range work. Let me give you an example. I keep harping about marine radios. Guys, 3 marine radios properly positioned here in Michigan will cover from the very bottom, from Monroe, Michigan, which is the very bottom of the the right-hand side of your hand. The first jump I can make, and we have done this in the past, will take us just east of Lansing. We can't go through Lansing. We need to go around it. We need to go to the west or to the east. In this case, we'll drop it just to the east of Lansing, and from there, then the next jump is all the way up to Traverse City or the Traverse City area. If we can get anywhere in that area of operation, even Ludington is enough. But Traverse puts us all the way up to the very little top of the little pinky of your right hand when you lay it on the table for your Michigan map. From there, the jump across the lake is nothing, top of Lake Michigan. And the last lake can take us all the way to the top of the Keweenaw, which is the upper horn of the UP. That's the whole length of the state, from the bottom to the top, with 3 radios. Or basically, 1, 2, 3 jumps, forgive me. So it'd be 4 radios. Forgive me, slap me in the microphone. So it'd be, you're talking as clean with a marine radio. Your signal is as clean as actually talking in the room, or as good as any of your cell phone communications. Now, again, the older radios or the standard box radios are your first choice. We've used both. Remember that there are pluses and minuses to the new digital but not just digital, but also digital with microprocessors on board, additional control features, which I guarantee you also have GPS on board. The older radios are very simple, very straightforward. If you can understand how to run a CB, you can run a marine radio all day, okay? We've done it before. We're going to be doing it again once we have this little class cycle going through. And even while we're doing it, we're going to start installing the new road, the new road grid / radio network. And we're going to just go right down step by step by step, try to put as many people up and online as we can, plug them in, and walk away. And you guys are going to have to maintain it. Now, some of the places we're going, we've got equipment that's been up for 30 years. Certainly parts have been replaced, but what's really cool is when we did the Death March back in the 90s, a lot of what we did 30 years ago is still fully functional and is part of the existing emergency road grid right now, the radio system, the way it's, should be set up. Now, this is overlapping with all the different radio technologies we've talked about. And I'm not belittling, and I really get tired of people doing, no, 2 meter is better than marine, or marine is better than CB. You need all of them. In fact, why not? If you're going to, this is one of the things. Make these the projects to get out of the way. Make it just like everything else. Everything is kind of a hobby thing for everybody. Okay, well, let's make this an interesting hobby. Let's get stuff done. And in the process of doing this, we are going to, again, make ourselves not only individually strong, but as a group of people to protect each other. Your tribe of like-minded people are all going to be better off in general. Now, another thing, and I mentioned VHF and UHF, okay, also, again, the idea that if you're going to use some of the other radio technology, you're going to need more antenna, you're going to need more height, okay? There's differences in performance with the different radio transceiver choices that you make. One of the things that people had a question here several times, and I know they're probably younger because anybody older will know the answer, do they make a Yagi antenna for directional control of a CB radio? Well, yeah, guys, they're called beams. Everybody says, I got a set of beams. That's a big butt Yagi antenna. I have one sitting in the back here. It's not hooked up right now. It's all the parts are there. I've had it for decades. I've had it up more than a few times at different locations. It's back here now. And the big thing about beams is that even if the other guy doesn't have it, What this does is tightens up your signal as low as 72% efficiency, as high as into the upper 80s. Purely a matter of how well you're willing to tune the antenna when you put it together and adjust it, when you adjust how it's assembled, okay? But either way, what you're talking about doing is shooting most of your signal down that line when you adjust the antenna, and it's a very narrow, tight beam. You're only taking up a couple of percentage points on that 360-degree angle or 360-degree pi that you have to broadcast out from the center out. So the advantage is that most of your signal can be directed right onto another receiving unit or anything that's in line with that receiving unit. Now, there's a trick to that, too, because, you see, that's another thing. You don't go spreading your signal all over the place if you put up a Yagi. You just immediately tell everybody what your azimuth is. You make that a standard from whatever your established point of broadcast is going to be. And you tell everybody, break out the compass, cut it, shoot an azimuth from the center, and follow that line out. And wherever you can intercept that line, your signal, your reception of my signal is going to be like you're literally sitting in the living room with me. Now, I will point out something about Yagi antennas. All Yagi antennas. Remember that antenna is sliding a certain amount of signal straight down like a pencil line in one direction. But I would also point out, remember that you have to watch and pay attention to what you're doing because you also have a certain lion's share of the signal going in the opposite direction down that same Yagi antenna. So you have 2 points of the compass where you're going to be broadcasting a phenomenal signal, but it's so tight that it's not easily identified. With the scanner, yeah, eventually you're going to pick it up. Okay, it's not an if, it's just a when. There's nothing you can do to totally mask or deflag any frequency you're using, because the longer you use it, the more people have time to find out where it is. To figure out, they'll go by the last benchmark, data they have, narrow their search because they now know approximately what they need to look for, and they'll progressively bring it down unless you change locations. Which is why, like riflemen or mortar crews, if you're a radio operator, you should be changing location. Okay, just something to think about there. At least move around a little bit, pick everything up, move at least half a football field to another location. That way, if their logic is that they've already got you pegged with GPS for a, well, guess what? It would be a good guess, but it tells you if you do, if you see something strike where you were sitting, and you're, say, a quarter mile away or an eighth of a mile away, probably it's a good indication that your plan should be when you broadcast the next time to immediately move or move as quickly as you can because, well, it's obvious they're hunting you. You just saw what happened to your last radio broadcast position from yesterday. Okay? So, heads up on that. Anyway, we're at the bottom of the hour. Let's see. Also, music request. Confederate version of Battle Cry of Freedom, and this is for Dixie Girl. The Confederate version of Battle Cry of Freedom. Shout, shout the battle cry of, freedom. And that's for Dixie Girl, as a matter of fact, and the crew down there in Alabama. Right now they got a fight on their hands, but they're doing a pretty good job, and they've got everything squared away. So I'll tell you what, for our long listeners down there in Alabama, Battle Cry of Freedom, the Confederate version is what they asked for, and that'll be our bottom of the hour music break. Battle Cry of Freedom, Confederate version. And most of these that we've done, if they're Civil War era, there's a bunch of really great bands out there that are Civil War reenactment bands. And they've done some really good studio work. They also do live, but they've done a lot of studio. Here we go. We'll be back.
On the land and on the main. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Beneath it off we conquered and will conquer oft again. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Our Dixie forever, she's never had a loss. Down with the eagle and up with the cross, we will rally around the once again. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Our gallant boys have marched to the rolling of the drums. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. And the leaders in charge cry out, come, boys, come. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Our Dixie forever, she never had a loss. Down with the eagle and up with the cross. We will rally round the bonny flag and rally once again. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. They have laid down their lives on the bloody battlefield. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Their motto is resistance to the tyrants never yield. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom. Our Dixie forever, she's never had a loss. Down with the eagle and up with the cross. We will rally round the bonny flag with rally once again. Shout, shout the battle cry of freedom.
All right, we are back for Dixie Girl. That's a music request was made about, 4 days ago, so we eventually will catch up. Don't worry about that. Ed played some music while I was running late. Sorry about that, guys. Normally we pick up and run with the ball one way or another, but we just had all the wrong things happen. It's going to continue to be, I think, worse as the days go by. We'll do our part, keep everything plugged in. But if you want to make a music request, you can send a email to liberty@provide.net. liberty@provide.net. That's liberty@provide.net. Put in capital letters, music request. And if you put the music request up there, we'll progressively work down through the long list. I mean, granted, we only have so many hours in the day. And it's Communications Tuesday. Music is part of our communications process. Everybody needs to pitch in and help participate by, throwing more music into their repertoire. We will have a wider selection, and you will point us the way. In fact, Dixie Girl took over the program, took over the network here for a few minutes, along with the gang. So we appreciate you guys rebroadcasting. I want to say thank you for running your Micro FM for as long as you guys have. I think you have 2 or 3 now, actually. And they're experimenting with one of the Chinesport models that has most recently been available. So I think they're satisfied with it. I know most everybody's been using them, has been. So let us know if you got any problems with that particular piece of equipment. Give us a read on that. Send me an email once you guys run them for a little bit. The new ones are kind of interesting. There's a new box they're using, a little smaller, actually. I don't know if they've compressed the circuit board. I haven't lifted the hood on any of these little ones to see just exactly how tight the board is, but not real heavy. I mean, granted, you can do a lot more with with processors, microprocessors to kind of save space, but I prefer to not see too much of that. Larger solid state is easier to fix. If something goes wrong, we can turn it around real quick and fix it ourselves. Next. I was talking about, we're not talking about the plague. Well, have another Corona Mexican beer and smile. Okay. Corona beer. It's the Corona beer plague, man. All you got to do is take a Corona beer and you'll explode. Oh, God, that's not what they meant. But that's close enough. If you can believe that, that'll be fine. Anyway, why are the asshats? Why are these traitors to America? Why are these politically correct fools that are queer as a $3 bill pedophiles bringing all these people into the United States? we have holdings. I mean, we can run out of counting them. I don't even know where they all are, but there's just so many of them. We have our footprint all over the Pacific, or we have friendly smile and wave people out there that we have control over all over the Pacific, where we can land people in transit. They could land them there. They could, smile and wave for a 2-week holiday vacation. Well, granted, it's not Hawaii, but it's kind of close. Of course, they're headhunters, and yeah, they do have a boner in their nose once in a while still, but that's only for the tourists. And so there's all kinds of places that we have out there that we don't have to have them touch ground in the United States. We don't need a quarantine location in Detroit, Michigan. Why? Only an idiot, an incompetent, or a fool. Oh, that's right. That's our U.S. government, if we got to believe what they're doing right now. Only a total idiot, incompetent, or jackass. Or a traitor who's trying to bring the plague to the United States, or a bunch of traitors, the pigs in the CDC, who are bringing this to the United States when we have plenty of holdings that would be not only very comfortable, like I said, don't worry, you're going to get an extra 2-week stay rather than in a location in downtown Detroit or outside of Detroit in a warehouse or whatever we're using to quarantine these people. How about you take them to an island complex and they can enjoy the beautiful, balmy weather of the Pacific. They will be in a nice location. It will be totally isolated from all the rest of the world. Isn't that nice? If you chose to go overseas, you're on a passport. You went over on a passport. You, of course, already understood, and they warn you about possibility of being quarantined. There's nothing there that is a surprise. I read all those stupid little yellow cards we had, didn't you? And you read any of the brochures they handed you out about going overseas? Anybody read all that garbage? I mean, while you're on a plane, you kind of are picking your nose, so how about you do something useful? Read all the junk while you're on a plane. So, fact of the matter is, they already knew that there's the possibility that this could happen if they have a brain. Okay? Now, let me give you an example. Wake Island, I don't know how much control we really have. It's still holding. I mean, there's a lot of these places that are not part of the regular territories as far as, like the Marshalls, Guam, and whatever. But instead, we have island contact holdings that we've had for now well over 100 years. In fact, we've had them for more than 100 years. Wake Island is one of them. It's not a slum. Wake Island actually would be an optimal location. By the way, you might remember Wake Island. It's not just famous for being a World War II battle site because the Japanese took it during the war, very beginning of the war. But let's remember that the Pan Am Clipper. Didn't you ever watch Indiana Jones? Dun 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 dun. There's the map, and you're going across the Pacific, and look, there's Wake Island, and the Pan Am Clipper, and it takes off. Remember that? Yeah. So you see, we have all these locations like this dotted all over the Pacific. Nobody can get off them. Everybody could be kept there if they're going to quarantine them for a short period of time. They would have a nice place to stay in a quarantine for a short period of time.
They're only taking them to CDC official quarantine sites, which they actually have a map on cdc.gov where you can go and see it. They've got the country broken up into really weird stuff. And the only one that they have listed on an island is out in Hawaii.
Right, which is like, why would I even take them to Hawaii?
Yeah.
We have
take them to Hawaii. They got a vacation.
Right, but we have other islands. We don't need. Well, the ones they're taking to Hawaii are probably the ones who live in Hawaii.
Well, they haven't taken anybody to Hawaii. They've taken them to California. Where's the other place? Someplace like on the eastern seaboard.
Once again, we don't need them there. Okay, why would we bring if we have, let's see, key word here, plague. Why would we bring plague victims when we have a global opportunity here to manage this thing? When we have islands, that are really nice, the people we have control over. I mean, we already control the locations. Half of them are really kind of in low idle mode. They're not critical. Of course, unless we're using them for spooks and kooks and for pedophile island Epstein stuff. But beyond that, we're talking military bases with extensive complexes, older complexes, some newer, but a lot of them from the 60s, the 70s. They're good enough. I mean, we bachelor's officers' quarters, older style, complexes of different types. I guarantee that there's a probably close to 100 locations already squared away that could have been plugged in, and that way they wouldn't even hit American soil. First, they'd hit the quarantine zone. They could sterilize everything, maintain maintenance, burn everything that they touch, put all new in for the next batch coming in, never put them overlapping with each other either. Have one complex building for the first group. As they're being cycled in, if new come in, they go to another building. When the first building is cycled out, everything inside is pulled and it's either fully sterilized or it's burned. Okay, depending on what it is, make everything perishable, make everything throwaway. It's not hard to do. I'm gonna tell you a little story about something. In fact, Ed, you're gonna love this. All you guys are gonna love this because we've been taking advantage of things. What was the last plague before the latest plague? What was one of the outbreak things that was the big thing we were all going to get hit with? It was as wicked as this. I'll give you a big hint. It's the E letter, right? So all these institutions that suck off of government tit, right? Well, Tyvek suits. Right now, Tyvek suits are a big thing. Everybody wants these decontamination kit type Tyvek suits. And lo and behold, the University of Michigan and all these other institutions, they're throwing out all kinds of equipment right now. I mean, throwing out. I mean, they got to clear it out because the new government money tit just fell from the sky. And the characters who are the money, they're looking for the government grant money, they know. I mean, they're hawking for money because they can spend a minimal amount and they get to pocket the rest, right? Well, they just threw out a whole container full, like a shipping container full of Tyvek suits. Was there anything wrong with them? No. Were they broken into? No. Rats eat them? Nope. Compromised? Nope. But you know what it did say on them? Not to be moved or used for anything other than Ebola outbreak. Wait a minute, Ebola? Well, that's a few major disease / plagues back, right? So what it comes down to is they slid out all of this original inventory, which, by the way, number one, virtually brand new in the box, kept in a sealed environment, in an environmentally regulated environment. Each is in their own plastic kit. All of them are brand new. They're like 5 years old. Okay, oh my God, they're totally outdated. No, they're not. But here's what's really a selling feature of these things now. They're 100% American-made. They were made before this Chinese outbreak, so even if they were lying and they were actually made somewhere else, they're 5 years old and virtually brand new in the wrapper, size medium all the way up to 5X. But on the boxes it said, do not use, do not move, for Ebola, blah, 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 Ebola defense, which means they were part of a block of government money. Now, the reason they're being moved out, because they got the latest scam going. So the latest pile. But wait, why didn't they just keep all of these since we're going to be short these things, right? Now, we're not going to be short these things because I haven't even done a count. I think we got close to 3,000, maybe 4,000 of these Tyvek boxes. Well, so it's like, we're talking like, well, God, I don't even know how many. But the idea is that I don't think they've gone bad. I don't think they're really outdated. They're in the boxes, in the plastic bags, and the booties are sealed in. And everything is sealed in its own separate little bag. And they're an American name brand. And, wow. But it was for the Ebola. And, we can't keep those around if they're for the Ebola. It won't work at all for the Corona beer. Don't you know? What's funny is by the time I'm done, I've got all of the post 9/11 / Ebola / don't forget all the other stuff, the anthrax attack. I've got all of the Scott Air Pack units virtually brand new in the box. And I've got all these brand new Decon Tyvek suits brand new in the box. I've got gloves. Of course, those I didn't get from the same source. Those I got from another source. Remember, 72 pairs of U.S. military mil-spec NBC gloves. Remember, I bought them for like $4 a case. So I really got everything to look as spaceman. I can be as spaceman-ish as you want. In fact, what's really cool is they actually have 5X suits. Now, for the 5X suit, everybody goes, well, 5X, why would I need that? Well, because when I jump into my spacesuit, my backpack, tank, and everything goes inside the suit, not outside the suit. That's kind of convenient. So anyway, for everybody out there, your tax dollars at work, and I'm sure working is hard. Don't forget. And the Oi boys, they know how to suck this tit. God knows how much is being stolen right now because they've had all kinds of official meetings, and either the stuff won't really be delivered, or they'll get $10 million and they spend $200,000 on whatever, and the other millions of dollars get pocketed and go over to Haifa and Tel Aviv, and the rest is history, as they say. So we are getting fleeced. I mean, big time fleeced. So we'll take advantage of that. Remember, there aren't going to be enough gas masks to go around, and there aren't at this point in time. But why not take them to an island and not be uncomfortable? Take advantage of all the throwaway junk that we have, all of the again, consumables. And they can carry on their way. We could even actually pull everything out of the luggage, clean everything up in the luggage, decon that. I mean, launder everything, in a very efficient way to ensure that everything is squared away and people get to, take care of, their own personal needs, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it'd be great. But that's not what we're doing. Why? Because we have incompetents, idiots, and wicked fools in the CDC and wicked fools in our government playing everybody in the process. So we'll just have confidence that that's going to continue. Also, got hold of some of the guys, or actually been in conversation with the guys from Bedford, the Bedford militia, Bedford County, and I've already routed them towards some sources for some of the stuff that they really are going to need as a group. So if we have any other militia elements, if there's any recommendations or if they have questions, they can also send me an email at liberty@provide.net, liberty@provide.net. There's a lot of sources, especially on the East Coast and locations, or things that can be done, especially when you're looking at 500 people having signed up for the militia, for the county militia. And that's only a fingernail scratching of the people that are actually out there more than willing to shoot their ass when the time comes. When the bad guys decide to do what they're doing, that's just the people who are out in front, which is okay. So keep up the good work there. Bedford, I understand. The other thing, of course, right off the bat, they got 500 people. That's a battalion. That's a good, strong battalion. It would be nice to have another 100 people, but you've got wives and girlfriends and grandmas and grandpas. So you have all the auxiliaries that you need to plug everything in and make it work. The big thing is, again, take the time, make sure that when you do plug in, you take advantage of all those people who are willing to step forward that are not the fighters, but the people that keep your people fed, keep them medically maintained, keep them clothed. All of that can be done by other than the rank and file. Okay, but you guys got to be ready and already organized to pick that up, run with the ball, and let those people do their part also. A lot of them are hard chargers and will do more than you can possibly imagine, and it will save you time. All of these other people need to pick up part of the weight. That's another critical issue. Again, don't expect to carry it all yourself. A lot of people try to do that. Again, delegate and give people a certain amount of delegated authority, and make sure that you keep them just keep them under wraps as far as they deal with their problems. Don't worry about dealing with others. Don't try to get intertangled with. In fact, a lot of people will step up to everything. They'll volunteer for every aspect of what's going on. You can't do that. You need the individual, one group to be dealing with logistics, and they need to deal with it as quickly as they can, come up with a transporting system, come up with an inventory to keep track of and know where things are, whether we need them for people. And, of course, also acquisition, acquiring more when the time comes. That's especially critical. So if you are going to participate, remember, or if you're going to set up a militia, don't turn anybody away, ever. Well, that's an older guy. Yeah, well, I want to be a Sam Whittemore. I'm only 64 years old. Sam Whittemore, I mean, my God, he was 80. He went into combat again because he'd already been in combat many times. But Sam Whittemore went in with his very fine sword, very fine pistols, his standard rifle, his musket, and his fighting blades. And when the British showed up, he killed at least 3 for sure, wounded a whole bunch of others. They left him for dead, and he lived another 19 years. He lived to be 98 years of age. After having been bayoneted and clubbed and shot and beaten down. So don't tell me how bad you got it if you're like, I'm 64. Like I said, I still got to catch up with that, man. You're all in the same boat. And you younger people, you better, get your act together and understand everybody can participate in some way. And you know what? With mechanized, here's the funny part. Since they can't run as fast, get them in a track, okay? And for those who are willing to fight still, put them in a track. Guess what? They're highly motivated to make the equipment work and to keep things running. So if you put some young people and old people together, you'll do just fine. But you got to get them together in the first place. You got to get done what you can get done as quick as possible. So Organized Arm Equip and Train as militia, establish a 510 program for, maintaining logistics/unit support. I would point out that, interesting. The resources that are out there, there's a lot of stuff that you can draw from where you can pull in the equipment and secure it accordingly so that you've got a standard technology for your unit, for what you are, very good, for what you're doing to create a standard, an SOP for the unit itself. I want to go over to Sportsman's Guide real quick. Somebody just jogged my memory on something else, even though it's not what they were touching on. Over at Sportsman's Guide, a couple of things here. Number one, there is a Dutch military surplus DPM camo. It's kind of like woodland camo. It's the Dutch. The colors are woodland camo, but the pattern is like the British DPM, standard, old pattern. Anyway, it's this Dutch military surplus vest 2-pack. Now this is just the vest system. This is more like the Granada type rig, only you have the option to station standard TA-56 or TA-90 pouches of whatever kind. Dutch models are out there, by the way. In fact, there's a whole lot of Dutch pouches in the DPM available, and they're actually pretty cheap. But 2 of these vests for $15.30. Over at Sportsman's Guide. The item number, I'll just put out the description. Dutch military surplus DPM camo load-bearing vest 2-pack for $15.30. That's a very good price, okay? So for everybody out there, you might want to check that out if you're looking for, again, to set up your 510 program, or if you're looking for certain useful tools. One of the other things that they have, not the fanciest, I'm sure, but it'll work just like the Austrian ones did and the others. There are Chinese military surplus pistol belts. They are large to extra large. They are 3-pack for $10.79. Now, these have the plastic squeeze buckle on them. They do have grommets. They should work with the M1910 hangers, etc., which are still standard all over the place. Everybody knows to what distance the grommets should be apart so that they fit that M1910 hanger like you find on the old 45 ACP, leather holsters, or a lot of the other hanger items like the medical pouches, etc. So, again, if you're looking for a couple of extra pistol belts or something spare for $3.40 a piece, 50 cents a piece, it's not a bad price. They are on clearance, and it's Chinese military surplus pistol belt, 3-pack used, but they're in pretty good shape by what the guys tell me, and so I figured I'd mention that. Also, if you're into the ABU Air Force uniform, anybody out there interested in the ABU Tiger Stripe, they've got one item in clearance that's actually a good price. It's U.S. Air Force surplus proper BDU work jacket, new, size small, mediums, and larges for $14.49 a piece. It's been a rare camo. It's been an expensive camo for all the time it's been in existence. The Air Force is already moving on to something else. Of course, after they made all the troops spend money on this, and if you wanted more of it, you had to pay a ridiculous price for this camo. Well, the Air Force is already dumping it, and it is basically a digital / a modern ACU type color range ABU Air Force camo uniform. In this case, it's just the jacket, not the pants. $14.49, brand new. Not a bad price for that stupid uniform. But if you like it and you're using it, I know a lot of our former Air Force people, they're taking it if they can find used, and they're dyeing it like they did the ACU, and they're dyeing it with a color, and what they're doing is a triple soak in IR / anti-infrared. So whatever the IR range protection that's already in the uniform, this supplements it. So it actually rejuvenates the anti-infrared reduction pattern of the uniform itself, because it works based on also the colors as far as how it disrupts everything, okay? Just a little heads up there. That's just about it. There are some double star M4 6-position folding stocks over in the clearance section over at sportsmansguide.com. This is all at sportsmansguide.com. Go to the clearance section for most. Now, those Dutch military vests were not in the clearance section, but they are. That's a good price for those, seriously. And if you want to, create a unique configuration for your mag pouches, especially if you're using an M1A, M14, FAL, HK91 / G3 or PTR91, that's not a bad set. Originally, the Dutch were using that when they were using the AR-10. So remember that it's designed, it can accommodate 20-round slab magazines with their mag pouches, and you get a double stack, top and bottom. Also, it has a pistol belt built in, so it has the suspension on the base for you to effectively be able to hang stuff, and it doesn't droop. Okay, it doesn't just flop around. On the double star M4 6-position stocks, they are $13.59 a piece. I think that's the best price for a backup spare folding stock you're going to find. $13.49 or $13.59. That's 10 cents more. They have it in OD green and earth brown. OD green and earth brown. The black is not there. I already checked. But that is a good price. There are a bunch of other medical items in the clearance section at Sportsman's Guide. One of them somebody is asking me about. Yes, if I had we might get one. It's or maybe 3 or 4, depending on what we will get. We'll get a sample and see what it looks like. Check military surplus dental chair. This is a fold up on itself, completely self-contained. Stainless, it is a hell of an item for what it is, even for doing like light surgery in the field. It's not a surgery table, but it would stabilize the patient and keep them in the upright depending on what you're doing. And it has a neck stabilizer for supporting the head. Anyway, it's $91.79 for the used model. And that is not bad. It's self-contained. If you got dentists, they're going to need something like this too. But it would also apply to certain medical support issues when it comes to having to patch somebody back up or having to work on certain types of injuries. So for the medical units, check that out. It's a checked military surplus dental chair. They've got them new and used. The used are on clearance. That's over at sportsmansguide.com. Yeah, it works as an antenna, too, by the way. Oh, everything's an antenna if it's metal. You know that, right? Anyway, here's the music. We are going to break. We got more live radio coming up here in a minute. God bless the Republic. That's the New World Order. It shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. By the way, they still have free shipping on any orders over $49 in Sportsman's Guide. So if you're looking at some of those items that we mentioned, go to the clearance section. I've been adding a bunch of other stuff the last few days, especially in the boots. You're looking for boots. I want to go there first before you go anywhere else. Well, anyway, everyone's taking over. God bless.
It's a tall tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree.
Gentlemen, prepare to defend 'Defend yourselves! Being recorded. Goodbye.
And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the street, the Liberty Tree. And we are the
Gentlemen, prepare to defend yourselves.